different situation inside the red zone. It changes the fantasy outlook of pretty much every player on the Patriots. And sure, there's some other spots that are interesting. Trevor Lawrence playing well. Maybe that Laviska Shenault, Marvin Jones, really interesting. John Brown got cut. I think Brian Edwards is interesting because of that too. But realistically, the biggest news for fantasy right now, it's Mac Jones. And it's going to change the complexion of that entire team. I think guys like Jacoby Myers, I think, by the end of the season, these guys are going to be like, wow, these guys were pretty good values. And I'm not suggesting Jacoby Myers is going to be a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy, but instead of just being like a bench stash, a guy you might like march out there once, I really think he might have like wide receiver 3 value at some point this year. So really interesting spot to look for. We've got some COVID issues too that are going on. Like I think the issues with Tennessee are more, it's probably going to create a dip on some of the Tennessee players that you can take advantage of over the next week. I'm not too concerned about it, but it's still a couple spots like that. They bear watching, and the Colts is another one. So, we can talk a little bit more about those spots, but for me, it's really player personnel. It's Mac Jones right now is the biggest news. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've got the slate pulled up right now. Sunday slate, $2.5 million fantasy football millionaire available on DraftKings. That's the contest we have pulled up right now. Under the Patriots, of course, there is Cam Newton at 5,400. You will not find that useful to you, but after that, running back Damian Harris available at 5,200. There's Jacoby Myers, 5,100. Mac Jones is $4,400 against that Miami defense week 1. Brian Flores familiar with what Bill Belichick might scheme up with an offense centered around a pass-first quarterback. Any other values, though? Do you sense some value on that Patriot side outside of a Myers who's 5,100?
I think you could look at tight end. If Hunter Henry misses and Jonas Smith is good to go, then I think that's definitely going to be interesting. So you'll have to see how the tight end spot works out because, Jonas Smith, 8 touchdowns last year. Again, all of a sudden, Jonas Smith's red zone value becomes a lot bigger. They're just not going to be running the ball as much. I know Damian Harris is there, but, when you have a quarterback that's pass first, you're just going to call more pass plays in the red zone. It's just going to happen, right? So I think James White as well is a player who could potentially be, a good value week 1. If they're going to try and keep the offense a little bit conservative and they want those short passes, we could end up with like a 6-catch James White game too. So I think Damian Harris is the guy that offers the most interest to me though. The middle of that Dolphins defense, it's okay, but really their strength is on the outside and you got to figure, man. We got a rookie going week 1, rookie quarterback. You got Bill Belichick. He knows who he's going up against. And then you've got the strength of the Dolphins defense in their cornerbacks. To me, like it smells just like a heavy Damian Harris day. I think that defense is gettable in the run game. So all those names I mentioned are nice, even like a Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers stack, but Damian Harris week 1, you'll probably hear some steam about him, but I'm pretty interested. Definitely setting up for a very interesting week 1 there.
Yeah. And you love him in season long too.
You got to, you've got to, again, just to go over the stats for people, 22 red zone rushing attempts, 22 rushing attempts inside the 5, Cam Newton last year, 10 only by Patriots running backs.
Right.
So there's 22, up for grabs right there. Just alone from last year. So.
Yeah, Cam Newton had 12 of them, and we talked about this a little bit. You can get him on the sportsbook. The last odds that were posted, plus 2,500 to win, to have the most rushing touchdowns of any player, which I thought was interesting because Newton being gone, goal line work will be interesting in New England. We won't make this Patriots heavy. I know we see some familiar faces in the chats on Twitch and YouTube. There is a line here from Germ, Mac Jones to Jonnu Jacoby line in one of the Millie tickets. Okay, very nice. So you stack with the Patriots and that Millie maker. Very good. There was some news today or yesterday. Brashad Perryman no longer with the Jets, signing with the Bears. Any thoughts there? Is that something that sticks out to you as far as the Bears? The Bears play Sunday night. They're not on the main stage.
Yeah, no. Look, I'm on Ron St. Brown for the Detroit Lions. Absolutely. Week 1 at the bare minimum, just trying to get to the game center here if I can find it. But regardless, here we go. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, his price is 3,000. you even have Tyrell Williams banged up. Like the Detroit wide receiver depth chart is, you're just shopping at no name there. I mean, you are absolutely shopping at the no name store. It's, I know, look, there's probably some people that, well, Khalif Raymond. I mean, come on, like you got Quintus Cephas. These guys are okay, but there's nobody, like there's no proven wide receiver one there. There's nothing. I mean, Tyrell Williams banged up already. I like Tyrell Williams too, but a guy like Amon St. Brown, and maybe it is Cephas, Quinton Cephas or Khalif Raymond, but somebody there for the Lions is probably going to go off. And by go off, I just mean get 15 points at 3,000 in week 1 for DFS. And that's going to be a 5x return. So the Detroit Lions wide receiver situation bears watching. It really does. As much info as you can get up to kickoff. If St. Brown's going to be starting, great. If Khalif Raymond is going to be out there, Khalif Raymond definitely has some wheels. It's a tough matchup, but if he's going to be getting some kind of garbage time with Jared Goff there at the end, then it's pretty interesting. So yeah, that Detroit wide receiver situation, not really one I want to dip into for season long or anything, but for fantasy purposes, that's probably going to be your best spot for like a mid-price play. Absolutely, for week 1.
Yeah, it's a good angle. I was thinking more so how it would affect Chicago, but the angle you took for the main slate makes sense because Detroit is on that main slate and you love San Francisco in that game.
And what news were you referring to for the Bears?
Just the fact that Perryman is now a Chicago Bear.
Oh, yeah, right. Yes, because the Bears did pick him up. Sorry.
That kind of makes your point, though. I mean, you can now find a cheaper play at receiver in Detroit, like a St. Brown at $3K. End of the game, they're down by $1 million. Maybe there's something there because you are absolutely hammering the Niners. Yeah.
And look, I think it does bear talking about Perriman for a sec on the Bears. This dude looked pretty good, like in Tampa 2 years ago. He went to the Jets. He was banged up. He had a couple okay games. I don't really know why it didn't work out in Detroit. I personally wouldn't put any stock into the Detroit Lions personnel decisions. Like if they cut a guy, it's not like, oh yeah, well, this guy must be garbage. I mean, this is a team that actively, like obviously traded for Jared Goff, is happy with a wide receiver core of Tyrell Williams. And like I said, nobody, I really would not put much stock in this decision just on Perriman. I think Perriman working as a wide receiver 2 or a 3, we've seen him do it in Tampa. I think it's a great pickup by the Bears. They needed that depth piece, man. Like Marquise Goodwin. Yeah, he didn't play last year. Like, do you really want to be rolling with him as your wide receiver 3? No, I think this helps a guy like Justin Fields down the road. I'm not suggesting Perriman, you need to go out and draft him, but I would keep an eye on him for waivers and stuff. Like try and be ahead of the curve on Brashad Perriman because when Fields gets in there, man, that old offense could really open up. And Perriman definitely, he's still young enough. Like it's the dude who's a first overall draft pick, balled out in college. I'd keep an eye on him at the very least.
Looks like the sports book has some life again. There are some lines now posted, which is good. They are starting to file in, including Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Miami, New England, Green Bay, New Orleans, which is now being played in Jacksonville. That was announced earlier today. But we can still talk DFS because now we've got some questions coming in. Do you have a favorite stack? Is there a favorite stack that's emerged for you now on that big week 1 slate?
I mean, look, it's definitely like still a little bit too early to just be making some huge decisions or anything like that. But you can definitely look at some of these games. I mean, I think that, as far as blowout potential and just, the potential to rack up massive fantasy points, I mean, everybody on San Francisco is just of interest to me because I just feel like that game is going to be a huge one-sided lopsided win. But, as far as who to stack there, it just might be like a Mostert thing. So I don't know if that's necessarily a stack. I am still very, very interested in Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. And I kind of love the fact that Devontae Smith, we basically didn't see him in the preseason because at 4,500, you've got the number 1 wide receiver for the Eagles, who again, they're not quite as thin as Detroit, but nobody there is going to dominate the targets and take them away from Devontae Smith. Maybe the tight ends will take some away, but that's fine. You're going up against a weak Atlanta team who don't have dominant corners, and you've got a guy in Jalen Hurts who I think he's going to take a step forward this year. And I thought he looked really good in his limited preseason work. Obviously he got sick, but it's kind of all worked out where like the sentiment on Hurts and Smith is all of a sudden it's kind of low because their preseason, they just basically didn't play much, which I absolutely love. A fast-paced game against Atlanta. If we go to the game totals here, like I'm pretty sure it's still set around 51, if I can find it. Did that one come back up? Maybe it didn't come back up.
There's only a couple games that I've found that are back.
Okay, mine are all back up. I'm just trying to see. Atlanta may not have come back up, but regardless, that game is going to be one of the bigger on the slate, just in terms of team totals. So it's a game I love targeting. I mean, you've got Atlanta. It's on the fast track, indoors, which we all love. You've got Jalen Hurts. This game might even be off the board just for some weird reason that we don't even know about. Maybe Jalen Hurts still the stomach issue or something. Regardless, here we go. It's a 47 game total. It's actually come down. Oh, that's not right. I'm looking at the wrong week. Yeah, not all the games are up. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm psyching myself out here, but it's going to be a good game to target. And that's definitely one I think you can build around. You've got the rushing upside of Hurts, Devontae Smith, big play wide receiver. He may only need like 8 targets to go off. So that's like one of my favorites for sure still.
And these picks by Geoff, as far as DFS, do reflect how he feels on the book as well. He's referencing the over-under there. San Francisco -7, so that highlights getting any weapon from San Fran, a Kittle, who is the top-priced tight end / receiver / running back. I also think he tops out the top just offensive player, period. Yes, because Garoppolo's at 5,500. On the main slate. And then for Philadelphia, Smith and Hurts, if you go with those two players, you still get about 5,600 a player for the remaining bits of your roster.
The nice thing about those two too, it's really easy to bring a player back from the Atlanta team, because if we're playing that, obviously you're thinking, okay, a couple bad defenses, lots of points being scored. So then you go to the Atlanta side and you click on Calvin Ridley, who is going up against one of the weaker secondaries in the league. He's 7,900. Again, we know where the targets are going for Atlanta. It's not like a big surprise. Is Calvin Ridley going to catch 15 passes every game? No, but if Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith go off, you've got to figure coming back, Calvin Ridley probably going to see a lot of targets in week 1. So I would even describe it as just like the triple stack of Hurts, Smith, and then Calvin Ridley on the other side.
Okay.
Love that to start off with. That's definitely going to be something. I'd be surprised if I went off that for week 1. So.
All right. Very good. There you go. So we do see some thoughts on both chats, Twitch, YouTube. Please feel free to weigh in. With some of these game lines coming in, we will shift gears to the sports book, but any questions, any thoughts, hot takes, we'll take it all. We understand we're back here on YouTube. It's not Madden, but we're happy to be back with you in some capacity here on the DraftKings channel. So please weigh in. We do appreciate you stopping by on both fronts. So please feel free to weigh in. So yes, some of these lines have arrived. There are 4 games. So I guess it's worth diving into some of them. The awards are not there. One of our primary discussions today was going to be Mac Jones as Offensive Rookie of the Year plus 600. That was the latest we saw on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Lawrence is still the favorite, Jones behind. But looking at the game lines here, as it turns out, one of these 4 games that is currently posted happens to be one Geoff loves. Geoff says, go get the Niners wherever you do your thing. Go get the Niners on the sports book. Right now, the Niners, actually, it's not there anymore. So this is just weird. It's just coming in and out.
Hit refresh because it's up. It was up on mine.
Okay. All right. I'll hit refresh. You kind of like Pittsburgh. There it is. Okay. Now everything's coming back. This is just bizarre. Okay. Now they're all here. Great. So we've talked Niners quite a bit here. So let's start there. You love the Niners against Detroit. Got that. Yeah.
I mean,
next one. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this one it's not rocket science. We've seen Kyle Shanahan already throw up, something creative with Trey Lance and moving Jimmy Garoppolo in and out in the preseason. The rushing offense already looked unstoppable with Mostert. I'm telling you, man, this is like a mismatch of the century of head coaches. Absolute mismatch of the century. You've got an offensive genius, a guy who, when Kyle Shanahan has had all his weapons, he has created magic. He's had big wins. Maybe he's only had the one big season, but he has had some big wins, even with like limited opposition. Took down the Rams last year. He's outcoached McVay. I'm telling you, man, a fully functional San Francisco team versus the Detroit Lions, this line should probably be double. And I don't even say that facetiously, man. I do not. You look at that Detroit Lion wide receiver core, you look at who they cut, you look at Dan Campbell, their defense, this line should not be -7. I will be shocked if this isn't a blowout San Francisco win. And I'm talking 14 plus points. If the Niners win by 10 plus points, less than 10 points, I'll be absolutely shocked.
All right, -350 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. It's the biggest differential as far as games here on this week 1 slate, except for the opener, but 7.5 to Dallas against Tampa. Another one you love, which I'm trying to figure out why you love it so much because of Tennessee's defense, but you like the Titans -3. You're hoping, though, it goes back a half point to -2.5. Why?
I mean, I'd love it at -2.5. You always want to try and get that point. I mean, the 3 is such a big number because of obviously just the way the NFL scoring works. You always try and want to get that point. But, right now, I wouldn't be shocked if this does swing a little bit. I mean, let's look at this game. Essentially, when a team is at home, a 3-point line in the NFL is saying essentially these two teams are even because Tennessee is at home. So they're the 3-point favorite. That's generally just saying, okay, we're giving home field to advantage for Tennessee, but everything else is even about these teams. There's no way the Cardinals are even to the Titans, in my opinion. You've got Mike Vrabel and this Titans team made the playoffs 2 years in a row. Division winners with one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year. The Titans have taken down some big teams, beating the Ravens in the playoffs. They grabbed a win over the Bills last year. Who really of the Cardinals beat? They beat Russ Wilson once, and it took 3 missed field goals. And they beat Josh Allen on a last-minute Hail Mary.
The Hail Mary was pretty awesome, but it took that. Okay.
Yeah. I think that this Tennessee team, again with the COVID issues, but we saw Tennessee off the COVID last year play one of their best games of the year when they beat Buffalo. So I don't really know. I just feel like if they're going to start sliding back the line on Tennessee, you take it. It's a team who added Julio. They've really improved their defense, in my opinion. And Vrabel, I don't necessarily love the way Mike Vrabel manages in game either. He makes some boneheaded decisions, but he has proven to be able to get this team up for big games. And I think they're kind of being disrespected here. No credit for winning the division last year. The Cardinals didn't even make the playoffs. And what did they add? AJ Green and JJ Watt. And now all of a sudden, they're even with the Titans?
Oh, Jones is healthy again. Chandler Jones is healthy.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I think that the Cardinals defense, it's a little bit of a mystery how those corners are going to work out.
Sure.
There's some good news from camp about how the corners are playing. So maybe the defense for, Vance Joseph-led defense does keep this one close, but you still at this line, you got to lean to the Titans, in my opinion. You just got to give them a little bit of respect, especially with who they've added over the offseason.
Also, Malcolm Butler, who is a corner they added. Actually, there was news today on Butler. He was placed on the reserve/retired list. So that calls for further question about what they might have in that defensive backfield. Cardinals, yes, are getting 3 right now. It's -115 for them. And then the Titans are at -3, of course, -105. So, yeah, I just find that game interesting. And like you said, 3-point spread, anything 3 or below, the books are telling you it's going to be a closer football game. I just find Arizona to be compelling. It's a West Coast trip, but I mean, it's week 1.
It's of the games I like, this is probably the one I want to bet the least, of my top 5 games, because you got to give Arizona some respect. I'm not trying to say they're a terrible team. I just feel like the line right now, not quite giving Tennessee enough respect in that one. So,
okay. There's another one Geoff likes for week 1, and that would be Seattle at Indianapolis. So that's another West Coast team, NFC West team, going to an AFC South team. Carson Wentz is on the COVID list, so I'm sure that's something that comes to mind. Jacob Eason taking reps with the ones, I think is the last we heard from Colts camp.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We've talked about this before on this show, the slate here on DraftKings. I think the Seahawks are getting underrated here. A little disrespect about the Seahawks. -2.5.
There's been just no talk about Russell Wilson this year. In terms of fantasy, nobody really likes him. In terms of just anything, nobody even talks about Seattle being even a potential NFC championship winner. They talk about the Rams. They love to talk about San Francisco's upside. They talk about the Packers and the Bucks. People talk about Washington more than they talk about Seattle. Like, this team is just going about its business. They've had no injuries in the preseason. Chris Carson healthy. DK Metcalf. Oh, remember him. They added a guy in the draft, Dwayne Eskridge, to add to the offense. Like Rashad Penny might be back this year. Remember that guy, a first-round draft pick. I'm telling you, man, they got in Shane Waldron, the former Rams passing guru. I think it's gonna. I'm very bullish on Russell Wilson this year. I think if you're making one MVP bet, plus 1,400 or better for Russ Wilson, you're not going to find a better bet. There's no way Russell Wilson finishes his career without an MVP. There's just no chance. This guy's too good. I think the quick passing scheme is exactly what Seattle needs to make Russ happy. I think he likes it. He can change some plays at the Russ line of scrimmage now. And again, nobody's talking about this because they just didn't show anything in the preseason, and there's nothing fancy to talk. There's no quarterback battle in Seattle. There's no like huge change in offensive scheme. It's just the Seahawks, and it's Pete Carroll again. Are we relying on Pete Carroll to make some good decisions? Yes, that stinks. But This is a team that won despite Pete Carroll, won their division despite Pete Carroll basically screwing up their offense the entire second half of last year. So, yeah, -2.5. I could see this line. Where the line goes from here really depends on the news on Carson Wentz. If he gets back, I think you'll probably see it stay around here, maybe gets to 3. If it's like, oh, Wentz has no practice, is more negative news, this one will shoot to -3.5 real quick. If you like Seattle now, I'd probably just jump in. There's really no reason not to like Seattle. They have a good rush defense, should be able to at least keep some kind of a cap on Jonathan Taylor. And then you've just got Russell Wilson versus, even if it is just Russell Wilson versus Carson Wentz, man, like that's enough of an edge for me here. Really like the Seahawks just as a team that's going under the radar. I think you could just think about them to win the division or something. And like I said, I like the Wilson MVP bet.
For Carson Wentz, it's the mandatory 5 to 10 days as far as the COVID list. And that, ironically, the day he was supposed to return when he was diagnosed with the positive test was actually the day he was supposed to come back to a full practice from injury, which just makes it, this guy just can't catch a break.
No.
So we'll keep our eyes on that. He will have to isolate away from the team for 10 days.
And it's not just Wentz. They're down an O lineman. They're down T.Y. Hilton. I like Michael Pittman, but like you need someone behind him too. Like, is Paris Campbell going to step up all of a sudden? These guys haven't even played with Carson Wentz. Like there's a lot of factors going into this. Like, I don't think this line should be -2.5. The Seahawks, like I said, this line could even get up to 4 if we get more negative news from the Colts. So.
Okay, so we're kind of bouncing all over the place here because the odds have now started to file back in on the sports book. But Geoff's favorite picks for week 1, San Fran -7, Seattle -2.5, and then Tennessee -3. He's hoping. Geoff is telling all of you, he's warning all of you, try to make sure if it gets down to 2.5. He loves it even more. The awards are here. The awards have been reposted. And Offensive Rookie of the Year is how we were going to start the show.
Yeah.
But there they are. Trevor Lawrence at +400, and there's Mac Jones at +600 after being named the starting quarterback on Tuesday. Yesterday morning was when the whopper came in, Bill Belichick releasing Cam Newton. And then right after, Mac Jones named the starting quarterback. Belichick spoke this morning, was mostly questions about Newton, how his vaccination status dealt with the decision. But they're going all in on this kid. They released Brian Hoyer. They're probably bringing him back. Just going to rework some things, put N'Keal Harry on the PUP list. It's just to make all the money work and make the roster construction make some sense. What do you think about this? What do you think about Mac Jones as Offensive Rookie of the Year? You believe in this smoke, or is it just smoke?
Oh, no, it's not smoke. The dude beat out an established veteran for the starting job, man. I mean, the narrative going into the year, I wasn't even a big Mac Jones truther. I even questioned whether, he should have been included in this group of rookies. Like, should he even been a first round draft pick? But I'm already kind of like reversing course here. Look, the big thing, everybody at the start of the year just said, no, there's no way Belichick's starting a rookie. Are you kidding me? No, Cam Newton's a starter. Everyone said that. Literally everyone. And now he's beating him out. So no, this is not smoke at all. This is a player who's come in and impressed one of the most hard to impress head coaches enough that he cut the guy who he started in 16 games last year. Dude, Mac Jones has a huge leg up right now on Justin Fields just from that point alone. Now, I think that if you're looking at offensive rookie of the year, you shouldn't look past the quarterbacks, at least in my opinion. And all you need to do is look back at last year. Is Najee Harris or Kyle Pitts going to have a bigger year than Justin Jefferson had? Justin Jefferson basically set some records last year. He still didn't win offensive rookie of the year. Like, he had an amazing season. So you basically need Najee Harris to have a better season than Justin Jefferson had. And I know we're talking our running backs and wide receivers. You guys get my point. It's got to have an amazing year, like almost a record-setting year, because you've got 3 quarterbacks now who are starting for their teams, and they're not coming out because there's no backup plans there. So if one of these quarterbacks puts up even just like a good year, they're probably going to win. So, and look, we got Trevor Lawrence, who looked really good in his last preseason. I think Pierce Dietrich on the sweat this morning made a good point. You know, there's probably going to be some good garbage time action for him. He could end up with like a few rushing touchdowns as well. Even if the Jags stink, Lawrence's numbers are going to be really good. I kind of like the Mac Jones bet a little better. Obviously, you're getting a bigger number, but there's also a better chance the Patriots make the playoffs. That's a huge thing in these things. If Mac Jones dragged his team into the playoffs in a rookie year, I think people just vote for him regardless of what he might throw like 20 touchdowns and people would vote for him, right? So, I think that for me, my favorites on this are Mac Jones and Justin Fields, just because I think Fields is starting week 2. But I think Mac Jones or Trevor Lawrence is the safest bets for sure. I could not, for this award anyways, I don't really want to go deeper than that. I just would not take a skill player. I wouldn't bother.
So just for the record, so the last 2 who have won the award, Herbert last year. So that, to your point about Fields, doesn't necessarily need to be a player who starts the season. Now, we found out what happened with Tyrod Taylor, a freak accident with team doctors that opened the door for Justin Herbert. Then it was Kyler Murray. And then the previous 2, Saquon Barkley in 2018, Alvin Kamara in 2017. And then in 2016, it was Dak Prescott. So 3 of the last 5 winners are quarterbacks. This situation probably resembles Dak the most for Mac Jones, in the sense that if he can go in with this roster and, to your point, lead them to a postseason berth, well, there you go. I mean, this Jacksonville roster for Trevor Lawrence, not very good. What's it going to take record-wise for folks to give Lawrence the award, unless he posts some unreal numbers? If they win 4 games, if they go 4-13 or they go 5-12, but Mac Jones wins 10 games with this New England team, hard to ignore the kid in New England, the Tom Brady's heir apparent, and what that storyline to me is stronger than what Lawrence is going to do for an irrelevant franchise.
Yeah. That's the thing. Lawrence might put up really gaudy numbers, but it's probably going to be with a bad record attached to it. And then you've got Mac Jones probably going to have the better record, right? So again, 2 players who they're going to be hard to beat out, regardless of for like a running back or something, right? So, Najee Harris, let's say the Steelers have a good season. Ben's probably taking most of the credit there. Oh, Ben Roethlisberger, bounce back season, even if Najee Harris scores like 15 touchdowns or something, right? Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts, he's going to be on a bad team too. Like, what's he going to have to do to surpass Trevor Lawrence? It's really Lawrence or Mac Jones. I kind of like Justin Fields just because I like Justin Fields as a player so much, but even plus 750, that might not be big enough. I really think you got to kind of limit it to the top of the board here.
Any chance for Zach Wilson? Plus 750 as well, just like Fields.
Well, sure. I mean, Zach Wilson is starting, but he needs to do something special as well. Not just garbage points. He'd need to probably have a better record than Trevor Lawrence did. He's in a tougher division, going to have the Patriots, going to have the Bills and the Dolphins. Like, I just don't know where the wins are coming there. I can't make it. I can't just, it's probably my 4th favorite of the top 4 for sure.
Yeah. Zach Wilson. I'll say this, there is some weight to, if the Jets are in it and they somehow are in the postseason discussion. And I think, it comes down to this. If you think the Jets are going to be better than the Patriots, then go.
Oh, absolutely do that.
Take a chance, right?
Yeah. Just if you think that, and I'm not even saying you're wrong, it's not my opinion, but if that's your opinion, absolutely. And you're interested in this bet, go bet Zach Wilson for offensive rookie of the year over Mac Jones. Cause as we just said, the more successful team, that's going to be really helpful.
We see you guys in the YouTube chat. Great to see you. El Paso #1, a big Titans guy. Mac Jones is going to go 6-11. Trevor Lawrence will end 8-9. All right. So I guess you like Lawrence then, El Paso, or you might like a Fields or a Trey Lance at some point down the road. Carter says Indianapolis to finish. They have a great core of linebackers, really good. Offensive line's going to hurt them. Nobody's talked about their defense. Yeah, their defense is good. Colts defense is good, but they still need a quarterback to be on the field and healthy. As PhD mentions, Geoff's logic strikes again. Mm-hmm. Yep. We bring everything here to this show. So there you go. Rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year. It's a storyline because Mac Jones was named the starter on Tuesday. Cam Newton released. So now Mac Jones has the second highest odds to win the award behind Trevor Lawrence. Then it's Wilson, Fields, and Lance. So the 5 first-round quarterbacks in this order: Lawrence at +400, Mac Jones +600, and then Wilson, Fields, and Lance all at +750. There was some news also. News just continues to come out, Geoff, on the Baltimore Ravens. Sure. They can't stay healthy. J.K. Dobbins out for the year. We found that out at the end of last week into the weekend. It's setting up well. And you had some data on rushing touchdowns. Of course, Ravens not on the DFS main slate on DraftKings, but just a big picture. You're into to Gus Edwards, Gus Bus.
Yeah. So, okay. Let me just bring something up here right before. But yeah. So, I mean, Gus Edwards, obviously, it's generally, I don't get too excited about Ravens running backs, or at least I haven't the last few years, because you've had more than one involved. Mark Ingram had that nice year, 10 touchdowns. He got kind of the bulk of the carries, but it was hard to get overly excited. They would sometimes mix Gus Edwards in or someone else. Then they drafted Justice Hill and people got excited about him, but he just ended up sharing carries. And then obviously, J.K. Dobbins, and Dobbins had 9 touchdowns last year. They got rid of Ingram. It was still probably going to be a bit of a tandem with him and Edwards, but Dobbins, I think rightfully so. Now we've got no Dobbins. Yep. Justice Hill has kind of turned into this guy like, he's okay, but he's not going to be like the main carry guy. So now we've kind of got one main carry guy in Baltimore. And I have to admit, I'm not like a huge fan of this situation because Lamar Jackson, one thing he doesn't do is dump off the ball. Like Gus Edwards might catch like 20 passes. He might play like all the snaps and catch like 20 passes this year. But you look back, I mentioned Dobbins had 9 rushing touchdowns. Ingram had 10 rushing touchdowns the year before. The main rusher for the Baltimore Ravens will get in the end zone. And it's funny because obviously you have a rushing quarterback, but the Ravens run so much that it doesn't matter in terms of touchdown production. That, this is a team that was last in pass attempts. I don't see anything changing this year. The only argument you can make is like, well, do they, do injuries catch up with them and they end up becoming more of a pass team? And then it's like Edwards loses time to Justice Hill. But I don't know. I don't know if you can really think about that. Last year, Gus Edwards was second on the team in red zone rush attempts behind J.K. Dobbins by 1. And now you have no Dobbins. So Dobbins and Edwards took 57 rush attempts inside the red zone last year. Lamar Jackson took 26. Now Edwards took 28 of those 57. And now there's 29 red zone rush attempts up for grab because Dobbins is out. They're not going to Justice Hill. Maybe Lamar takes a couple. Gus Edwards is going to have a lot more red zone rush attempts is what I'm trying to get to here. I think he's definitely got a chance at 10 plus touchdowns. So he's an intriguing player. You can go to his player props. I think there's a prop on there. If you go to like, what are the player prop section maybe? Oh, no, you're in the right spot. Rushing touchdowns. Yeah. You look at Gus Edwards, his over under is 9. And I'm not huge on betting. Oh, it's actually 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah, it's 8.5.
Over is at plus 100.
I should have known that from this morning because we talked about it. It is 8.5. I'm not huge on betting on running back player props because the running back position is so injury prone. But Gus Edwards has been pretty durable, and we just have to look at past the past couple of years and how the Ravens offense isn't changing this year. They're running the ball. That's what they're doing. I think that's a pretty good bet, man, at plus 100, especially with the extra game thrown in. We haven't even talked about that. So give me the over there on Gus Edwards rushing total.
There you go. Plus
Touchdown
money too. Plus money.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So that's good stuff. Yeah. Plus 100 for over 8.5 touchdowns. Gus Edwards with the J.K. Dobbins injury. So this was something else we brought up earlier. I don't think it's up right now though. So we were talking New England and how Mac Jones being there, more of a pass first offense. They can go back to what they've been accustomed to doing. Plus 2,500 for Damian Harris to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns. Now, you think it's still plausible for someone like Gus with Lamar, who you mentioned, to get 9 and then Lamar can still get 10 to 12?
Yeah, absolutely. Go. Actually, why don't you bring that up, like the rushing touchdown futures, if you can, because I think that was a good one. We talked about this. We've talked about both these guys. I mean, Gus Edwards and Damian Harris. They're not going to be prolific PPR backs. You're not betting on these guys to catch a ton of passes, obviously, or anything like that. Should be under player futures. Yeah, it should be under player futures.
Here we go.
So neither of these guys is going to be catching a ton of passes or anything, but in terms of like what we know they're going to be doing, I mean, again, all these red zone rush attempts in New England that Cam took and in Baltimore that J.K. Dobbins took are up for grabs, and these guys really don't have much in terms of like competition. I think the Damian Harris one is way more interesting, just because obviously we know Lamar Jackson is still going to rush, and he's going to rush for some touchdowns, and he may even feel more compelled to rush a little bit more. And there is also a rookie on the Ravens this year, played pretty good. So I'm much more interested in Damian Harris. I know, Stevenson there on the Patriots, but man, when was the last time? I know Bill Belichick has gone with a rookie at quarterback, but like, when's the last time he trusted a rookie running back? Like,
well, that was my point. They redshirted Harris 2 years ago,
and they've redshirted running backs in the past. They redshirted James White way back in the day. They redshirted Shane Vereen. Like, he has done this numerous. The only
one he hasn't done it to is Sony Michel.
Yes, that's true. And look, maybe the Stevenson guy is different too, but I don't think so. I think Damian Harris is the dude here. Absolutely. And I love this bet. I really do. I think he's going to be their main offensive piece. I think that he's going to be, without Cam, their main offensive red zone guy. And look, the other thing with Damian Harris is really good. If you've never seen Damian Harris play, or you just haven't seen him, he's a very good runner. He is a very, very good runner. I was a little disappointed the Patriots took so long to realize this, but this is a really interesting spot for him. And you look at this total, yeah. I mean, are the Patriots going to be world beaters on offense? Probably not, but I think he's someone. You look at this, you got Gibson even could have like a vulture there. Aaron Jones going to have AJ Dillon. Kamara's got Murray. Zeke is probably in a really good spot, but outside of like the top 3 or 4 guys, I mean, Damian Harris might be the only one with like no competition for the red zone touches. So
right.
I love it. I really do like that price.
The only other person I thought of was James White, and I went back and looked. In 2018, he had 5 rushing touchdowns, but that number's declined every year. He had 2 in 19 and 1 last year. So make of that what you will, but it feels to me it's ironic because folks think, well, they're going to be a worse running team without Newton, right? And I would argue no. I think now they're less predictable on offense, and Cam Newton scored 12 of their 20 rushing touchdowns last year. Most of those scores were from inside the 5, inside the 10-yard line. He had 1 scamper for close to 20 yards last year for a score. Yeah. So Damian Harris had 2 last year, 2. So I don't think I saw him, by the way, for an over-under. I did not see. Maybe that's new. I haven't seen a Damian Harris over-under prop for rushing touchdowns. But I can try.
Well, I'll look quickly here. I'll tell you if I see one. Player props.
I'm glad you're interested, though, Geoff, because that was something that came to mind, and now I've got you bought in. That's good.
Dude, there's so many things you can bet on, and it's amazing to have thank you for DraftKings for letting us do this. But like you just almost forget. You're like, oh yeah, like I should also look at this category. Like I said, I brought up the MVP. We talked about rookie of the year, but some of these totals, there's really good stuff out there. So before you make any decisions or any, last minute investments, always trying to look through. I think every category, there's some good value. It's very similar to betting golf outrights. And I think golf outright betting is like one of the most profitable things you can do if you're serious into sports betting. And I think it's similar to this. You're getting bigger odds, sometimes the books overprice guys like lower down in the ranks. And I kind of feel like Damian Harris is in that spot right now. So.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes to go. One other game, just to keep in mind, a line did move today. Green Bay is now a 4.5-point favorite over New Orleans. That was at 2.5. The game is now being played at TI. Do they say TIAA or TIAA? TIAA. I'll have to ask Emerson. TIAA Bank Stadium in Jacksonville. So it's a neutral site game. Green Bay. 2 points added to their number at plus minus 4.5. So
is that Jacksonville's home stadium then? Is that
yes?
Like okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you know why they picked Jacksonville? Was there a reason given for that? Or
good question. I have no idea.
Okay, well, anyways, I guess it doesn't really pertain to our conversation, but that okay, yeah. I mean, it's too bad if you got on the Packers early. I mean, good for you. Like it's a fantastic bet if you got them like 3 or under 3. Mm-hmm. I still don't really think that you should be going all to the other side. I mean, if this one does get up to like 5 or 6, we could talk that the Saints defense certainly is good enough to at least put up a fight here. But man, I like nothing about the spot for New Orleans. You've got a team that's going to be taken away from its home opener without its leader. No Drew Brees. This was already a tough spot for the Saints, switching quarterbacks. And now it's just like, oh my God, are you kidding? Now we got to deal with this. Oh man, I don't like this one. I think 4.5 is still, it's not enough with, Mr. Rogers and all his crew, with Cobb back there. So no, I think you'll see this one get up to 6 by game time. I really do.
It's another Florida home game for Jameis Winston. So maybe that's the narrative.
Oh boy. Wow. Yeah. Well, you guys have fun writing that narrative.
Now he's in Jacksonville. He's playing everywhere. Jameis Winston is a home quarterback. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to Eamon behind the scenes, our producer, Bry Guy, our technical director. 3 more Sims coming your way tonight here on the DraftKings YouTube platform, also Twitch. Be sure to check them out. Washington, Baltimore, Green Bay, Carolina, and then Titans, Broncos. Next week, we will have a little bit of a change as far as what we're doing for the slate. Next Wednesday, there will be golf, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, myself, Adam Kaufman will be here. Geoff will be here. We'll all be in the mix once we get our programming straightened out after the Labor Day holiday. You all have a great rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks, Geoff. We'll see you soon.